Morning, boys and girls. I want to read you a book this morning, and it's about the silkworms that we've been studying, and it's titled Silkworms, Life Cycles by Donna Schaffer. And I think you'll notice some things right away when I turn the pages that will tell you about this book. Even before I turn the page, I look at the front cover, and it's got actual pictures. It doesn't have somebody drawing a picture of a silkworm with a smiley face or wearing clothes. So that right away tells me something about this book. Life Cycles, Silkworms by Donna Schaffer. Oh, here it is. Table of Contents. Now remember, we talked about table of contents. When there's a table of contents in our book, that tells us that it is a nonfiction book. Every time we have this, we know that we can go to these certain pages and skip right to what we want to learn about. Some of the things that we could learn about: life cycle diagram. A diagram, we know, is a picture that explains the life cycle of a silkworm, about silkworms, the life cycle begins, larvas, and molting. That's where I want to stop today. I'm going to read right up to that spot, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of the evidence of molting in our own silkworms, if I can get one onto the camera close enough so that you can see it. Okay, let's begin. So here's the cycle, the diagram that explains. And when we read the butterfly book the other day, we saw that it started as a butterfly laid an egg on the leaf, and it was stuck there. When it hatched, it ate its way out of the egg, became a larva or a caterpillar. Then it turned into a pupa as it hung on the leaf, and then became an adult. And the adult then laid an egg, and that's why it's called a cycle. Like a bicycle or a tricycle, the wheels go around and around. This cycle goes around and around. The life cycle of silkworms. Silkworms go through complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis has 4 stages. Silkworms grow and change during each stage. A silkworm's body changes form 4 times. The first stage is the egg. Silkworms grow in eggs during this stage. Larvae hatch from eggs. Silkworms are larvae during the second life stage. Larvae spin cocoons around their bodies to become pupas. During this third stage, pupas grow adult body parts. Finally, the pupa becomes an adult moth. These stages are part of a silkworm's life cycle. Almost all living things go through this life cycle, or through this cycle of birth, growth, reproduction, and death. And there's a very close-up picture of a silkworm. About silkworms. Silkworm is the common name for several kinds of moth. Farmers collect the valuable silk these insects spin. People make expensive clothes from silk. Silkworms live mainly in Asia. Some silkworms live in the wild, but most silkworms are domesticated. People raise them on farms. Silkworm moths share some features with all insects. The silkworm moth has 3 main body parts. They are the head, thorax, abdomen. Silkworm moths smell with antennas attached to the head. Wings are attached to the thorax. The stomach is in the abdomen. Silkworm moths use their long feather-like antennas to smell. The feather-like antennas on a moth are different than we saw on the butterflies. The life cycle begins. The life of a silkworm begins in an egg. A female silkworm moth lays 300 to 400 yellow eggs at one time. A special body part in her abdomen releases the eggs. In the wild, the silkworm moths lay eggs mainly on mulberry leaves. Remember, mulberry leaves, boys and girls, are the only kinds of leaves that they will eat. The moth releases a sticky liquid that fastens the eggs to the plant surfaces. This keeps the eggs from falling or being eaten easily by predators. Not all eggs hatch. Eggs that will hatch turn black within 3 days. Silkworms in the black eggs develop for 7 to 20 days. They may develop more quickly in warm conditions. Over time, the egg centers become clear. Eggs are ready to hatch when the black rings appear in the center. See, we have some. The black rings are larvae. The larvae hatch by eating their way out of the eggs. The second life stage of the silkworm begins. Silkworms hatch from black eggs. White eggs will not hatch. And that's what we saw when we were looking at the eggs in our classroom. And here's where we are now. Larvae. People named the silkworm for the way it looks in the larval stage. Newly hatched larvae look like thin worms. Larvae must eat within 24 hours after they hatch. We talked about that in the classroom as well. That's why I had to take them home when we were going away. Newly hatched larvae are weak after they break out of their eggs. They do not have much energy to move around to find food. Silkworm larvae begin eating mulberry leaves right after they hatch. They first eat the leaf on which they hatched. Larvae continue to eat and grow. Farmers feed mulberry leaves to domesticated silkworms. Larvae, domesticated means that they've been conditioned or they've been changed so that they only live with people. Larvae have hard outer coverings called exoskeletons. Exoskeletons protect larvae. Birds and other predators cannot easily break through the exoskeleton. These larvae are eating mulberry leaves. Larvae are in the eating and growing stage of the life cycle. The larva in the circle is older than the other larvae. It has grown larger. And you can see the larva in the circle is larger than the ones here. We will see them get larger in ours as well. And molting. We haven't talked too much about molting, but we will see some of that in our silkworms. Silkworm larvae must shed their exoskeletons to grow. This process is called molting. Larvae must molt 4 times before entering the next stage or the next life stage. A silkworm larva stops eating when it is ready to molt. It then raises its head and keeps still. The larva stays this way for about 1 day. The larva produces a liquid to loosen its exoskeleton. The larva then crawls out of its old covering. The new covering is softer and larger. The larva begins to eat again. It will grow into its new covering. The larva is ready to molt again when the covering becomes tight and hard. And here's the explanation for this page. Scientists call the stage between each molt an instar. Silkworms have 5 instars. Larvae have different coloring during each instar. Silkworms reach the final instar in about 2 weeks. So we've been feeding ours and watching ours grow, boys and girls. I'm going to stop this book here and we'll read more later. We've been seeing our silkworms eat and grow, and we've been observing them. Let me show you. I have these. Who are eating and growing, and I think if we look carefully, we might be able to see some that look like they're sitting very still with their head raised. I think these might be getting ready to crawl out of their old skin. And if you notice, see this one looks very dull, and this one on the left looks very dull, not shiny, and the one on the right looks very shiny. I believe that one has just crawled out of its crawled out of its old skin, and there we have some with the new skin. All right, boys and girls. So that's our reading for today. I want you to think about these things when you're reading your own books. I want you to be able to connect them to things that we're doing in real life. A lot of the things that authors do is they try to read or try to tell you things that you can experience in real life. And so we can see that we're seeing these right here. All right.